All right, well, good evening, everyone. This is a regular meeting of the Ferndale Schools Board of Education being held Monday, October 19th, 2020, being held virtually via video conferencing because of the pandemic. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the Ferndale Schools YouTube channel. All meetings in the Ferndale Schools are held in public in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. Printed documents discussed in tonight's meeting are available to the public upon request, with the exception of any information protected by student or employee privacy rights. Board meeting information is posted on our website, www.ferndaleschools.org. If you do not have internet access and need information, please contact the board offices at 248-586-8652 by Thursday of the week prior to the meeting, and the district staff will do their best to work with you. This meeting is called to order at 7:03 p.m. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Dookie.
Here.
Hart.
Here.
Abraham.
Here.
Mueller. Latosh.
Here.
O'Donnell.
Here.
President Davison.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That takes us to item 1.3, the approval of the agenda. Does any board member have any amendments they would like to make to the agenda tonight? Seeing none, the agenda will be approved as it is. That takes us to item 2 for the night, the Ferndale Student Representatives. Is Jeanne with us from University High School?
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Jeanne Ingram, and I'm the Senior Board Representative for University High School. And I'm just here to let you know a few things that have been going on around my school this month. So on October 5th, the UHS Newspaper Club released our first newsletter of the year. Some of the articles included in the Soaring Eagle were informative historical pieces, poems, and current events. Our virtual Spirit Week was held on the week of October 4th. Participation was taken through changing our profile pictures during the class video calls, turning on our cameras, making Instagram posts, and entering photos daily in a Google form. I really enjoyed the Spirit Week days, and I feel like it was a fun way to keep the students engaged in school activities during these times. Our homecoming pop-up event was October 10th, and it was lots of fun with foods, homecoming court announcements, costumes, and swag bags. Students were also given the opportunity to dress up in school-appropriate Halloween costumes if they wanted to do so. The 2020 National Honor Society induction on October 13th was held outside of the school and was streamed on Facebook Live. The event was very nice, and I'd just like to say congratulations to our new NHS members, I'm sorry. There was a great turnout and moderate weather that allowed the event to go very smoothly. Seniors took the SAT on October 14th at UHS. The test was taken socially distanced throughout the classrooms in our school. We provided a light breakfast, food, and snacks during our break. Although the test was not taken the way we expected in the beginning of our high school careers, it was still nice to see so many students show up to take the test. Some upcoming events happening in our school this month are our volleyball senior night for class of 2021 is October 26th. For our freshmen, they'll be taking the PSAT on October 28th, and the next day, our sophomores will be taking the PSAT 10 on October 29th. And on Friday, October 30th, we will have a trunk or treat event from 12 to 2 p.m. for all students, staff, and families at our school. And that's all I have to share. I'll take any questions if anyone has anything to ask me.
Jenny, when is the trunk or treat?
It is October 30th.
From 2 to 12.
12 to 2.
Oh, I'm sorry, 12 to 2. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you. That's all I have to share today.
All right, thank you so much, Ane. Is Kai Walker with us from Ferndale High School?
Yes, I am here.
Welcome.
I hope everyone is doing well tonight. This is what I have to share going on currently at FHS. Just to double check, can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So this month is October, and it is college month at FHS, which means that our seniors have 3 goals set for this month. The first one is apply to at least 1 college, apply to FAFSA, and apply for at least 1 scholarship. And this entire month is wrapped around juniors and senior students at FHS. They have the opportunity to meet with college reps the entire month of October through Zoom, like online, and Google Meet and Zoom. Upperclassmen need to make sure to continuously check their emails throughout the month so that way they aren't missing out on these opportunities. On October 2nd, 12th graders had their first opportunity to meet with Wayne State representatives via Zoom. Also a reminder that AP students at FHS have until the 25th of October to sign up for all AP classes in the College Board. And our counselors are really emphasizing that even if you are not participating in AP testing, you should still join the class online. October 9th, we had our materials pickup, and we got to meet our new principal, Ms. Isaac, who was a wonderful person and a great help. October 14th, we had picture ID retakes and senior formal photos. And we also had the SAT. And like just a light snack was provided. And majority of the kids that I talked to, they said that they felt pretty good about the SAT test taking. And they didn't think it was as bad as they thought it was going to be. October 14th and 15th were our parent-teachers conferences as well. October 29th, the United States Assembly and students leading students are planning an FHS fall outdoor pop-out event. Details are still being formalized and coming out, but I personally am excited to get reconnected with FHS staff and students, and I'm really glad that this pop-up event is happening. Each month, there will be an item giveaway to FHS students. Some of the items are masks, water bottles, and other items that will be given away to students for the rest of the school year in an effort to keep in contact with students and make it impossible to hide that eagle pride. Also, all seniors' gowns will be bought, and there will be another photo opportunity this upcoming spring for retakes on senior photos. That is all I have for tonight, and if anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Well, Kai, thank you for a thorough representation of the things that have been happening at the high school this past month.
You're welcome, anytime.
And that will take us to agenda item 3, the presentation of the Superintendent's Excellence Awards.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Today we're here to actually recognize 3 individuals. It's been a long time since our last Superintendent's Excellence Award. And so with our staff, we had a number of wonderful submissions, and Kim Shepard, one of my colleagues, can attest that it was very difficult to choose. So today we have 3 from the elementary, middle, and high school level that will be recognizing for their excellent work, both inside and outside of the classroom. Each of them nominated by a staff member who really captured the essence of the submission. So I'm going to share a few words from each of the teachers that nominated each of the students. Zeta Morrow was nominated by Ms. Ganska. Zeta is a 4th grade student at Fuel Elementary. Some of Ms. Ganska's submission includes, Zeta is truly an amazing student and person. She is creative, kind, seeks out academic challenges, and is incredibly helpful. She's motivated and so much more. If Zeta notices a classmate, friend struggling, she is there. She always has a positive spin to put any situation in a positive light and help so many people. Obviously, remote learning can be a struggle for everyone, but Zeta is resilient. Time and time again, she's engaged every day. She has restated lessons in her own words, helped others see lessons through a different perspective, and many students have learned a lot from her. I know I can rely on her, and she truly is an absolute gem. So a lot of things about Zeta, fourth grade student at Fuel. She's a hard worker and she's incredibly understanding. And Zeta, it is a pleasure to have you as a student at Ferndale Upper Elementary. And it's with great honor that we recognize you for the Superintendent's Excellence Award. So if everyone can give Zeta a round of applause virtually. And then Zeta and family, if you want to say a few words, just unmute yourself, or Ms. Gonska, if you're on, just unmute yourself and feel free to say something.
Thanks.
How are you doing with the virtual instruction, Zeta?
Good.
Good. All right. Well, we're really proud of you.
Thank you.
All right, we will move to our second student. Dionne Murray was nominated by Miss Elaine Zoll. Dionne is an 8th grade student at Ferndale Middle School. Some of Miss Zoll's submission includes, Dionne sets an example for other students in her commitment to academic achievement. She is enrolled in rigorous courses, including the AVID elective. Dionne's citizenship is noteworthy as her academic achievements. She is always kind in her words and actions. She listens to others, contributes meaningfully to every conversation in which she participates. She is a joy to teach and is on the path to greatness. Zeta is also a member of the NJHS Student Council and Orchestra. She is an example to all of us as someone who is committed to hard work and personal excellence. All her teachers say the same thing, including Mr. Turner, who said Dionne is a motivated, kind, mature self-starter. Ms. Coram also concurs with the nomination. So Dionne was not only nominated by Ms. Zoll, but many, many other teachers echoing the same sentiments as Ms. Zoll. Dionne, you're on a path to greatness, and we appreciate all the great that you do at Ferndale Middle School. It's impactful not only to other students, but the adults as well. So we thank you for doing great work and motivating us as well to do better, so that we can make a path for you to take the lead one day when it's time for us to retire. So Dionne, it's with great honor that we honor you with the Superintendent's Excellence Award as well. Virtual round, yeah, thanks. Thank you, everybody. Dionne or Ms. Zoll, if you'd like to say a few words.
Are you gonna talk, Dee? I'll go first. Thank you for showing up every day. You're the best. You know I think you're the best, but now everybody knows you're the best, honey. Good job.
Thank you so much. I really happy that you nominated me for this award, and and you know, virtual school has been a little bit difficult, but I've been getting through it, and I'm really thankful, and I will graciously accept this award.
All right, well, keep it up, Dionne. Again, thank you for all you do. All right. And then our last recipient for this month is someone that most of us are familiar with. We are recognizing Jaslyn Coles, who was nominated by Miss Lauren Thomas and the entire science team at University High School.
Right.
So I'm going to share some words from Miss Thomas. Jaslyn is an extraordinary student with a wonderful disposition and drive to constantly further herself and inspire those around her. The science team is nominating her for her leadership, hard work, ability, and determination, her dedication to helping other students, her family, and the courage to take new opportunities and challenges is something that we all admire. Jaslyn is a part of the National Honor Society. She tutors students in grades 2 through 10. She's also the recipient of the Future Author Award. One thing that was mentioned in her submission that I personally got to see was she performed her poetry at the Black Excellence Ceremony at UHS, and she literally shut down the event. The reaction from the audience, the students, it was a performance that really moved everyone who witnessed it, and I was really glad to be able to see it. Jaslyn is constantly putting others before herself while also pushing herself to the maximum. She also serves, obviously, as a student board representative. All that with ensuring that she has excellent grades, participates. Jaslyn, you are a role model to us all in showing that we can achieve anything that we put our minds to, and then the selflessness that you have to really go above and beyond in everything you do. So it's, again, with great honor that we recognize Jaslyn Coles this month as well for the Superintendent's Excellence Award. Jaslyn, if you'd like to say a few words, or any of the UHS team that is here.
I want to say thank you for everything. I don't know if my science teachers, the science department is here, but thank you for this award. I am very humbled by all the support and the comments and all of the above. Thank you so much. Virtual learning has, at the beginning, it was a different type of challenge, you know, trying to stay up to date and get into the routine and schedule, but all the teachers are very helpful at UHS, and thank you for helping me with my education.
Mrs. Thomas is here. Congratulations, Jaslyn, number one. Mrs. Thomas is here, but she's not able to speak right now. She had a previously scheduled dental appointment, so I'm going to just say a few words. And I haven't gotten to see Jaslyn in a while because she's in the early college program as well. And it was interesting, earlier in the year, in the semester, she was having some struggles with technology. And we went over all sorts of options. And, you know, like Danya said, her tenacity really impacted me because she was determined that she was going to catch up in this course. She needed a laptop. And, you know, we talked about the options, maybe potentially dropping, but she was determined, and we reached out to all sorts of people. And we were able to come up with a laptop from her, and she's been super productive, and she hasn't needed me for anything lately. So I don't get to see her as much anymore. But I mean, everything that Danya said, I mean, her performance at the Black Excellence Celebration, just the type of student that she's been, I mean, conscious and aware, always looking to improve and impact others. I can't say enough about Ms. Coles. Congratulations, Jasmine. We're very honored to have you at UHS.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gardner.
I'm just reading the chat. Lauren, if you'd like to speak, the floor is yours. All right, well, again, congratulations, Jaslyn.
All right, congratulations all students for being recognized this month with the Superintendent's Excellence Award. That takes us to item 4 on the agenda, the building presentation. And this first presentation of the year, we welcome Jennifer Getty from CASA.
Hi, everybody. I think Danya's going to share the screen for us that has my presentation. I know that this is a long meeting, so this is going to be brief. For those of you who may not be familiar with CASA, we are a consortium program. We serve 7 different school districts. Students come to their home high school in the morning, and then they right now go via Zoom to CASA in the afternoon. And Ferndale is one of our 2 biggest sending districts. Another thing to note is that our teachers also come from our sending districts, and we have quite a few fantastic teachers who split their time between Ferndale and CASA, and we're very happy and privileged to have them. So tonight, I would just like to run through for you the steps that we've taken to support our students during this remote learning, which are very similar to what I'm sure you all have seen at Ferndale. Oh, and I've lost my screen.
Do you see the CASA screen? I believe I shared it with everyone.
I did, and now it's completely black. Huh.
Hit the escape button.
I am.
Oh.
Escape, escape, escape.
Here,
Oh,
I'll try and reshare it.
Okay, I don't know if it's just me.
I can see it.
Oh, it must be my computer. Oh no.
Sorry, let me,
it might be mine. Maybe I can join you guys by phone and see it, hopefully.
Gonna one more time.
Okay. I don't know, this computer was working all day. It's plugged in.
It's showing up as black screen.
Yep. Yep.
Can you see the presentation off your phone and then just tell me next slide?
Yep, you bet. That's what I'm trying to pull up right now. Okay. So, sorry, my phone is doing its thing. Technology. Okay, so anyway, let's try next slide. I'll see if I can do this as well as I can from memory. So over the summer, once we realized that we were going to be doing the virtual learning, we got together an ad hoc tech team. And it was 4 teachers who got together on their own time, and they really worked hard to think about what our teachers would need to make it as good as possible, and what our students would need to be seeing from our teachers as well. So we were able to get our teachers laptops. We had not bought computers for our teachers in the past 5 years. And so here, I'm trying to join you by phone. So we got laptops for everybody. And then we also let them take home their monitors from the classroom so they could have 2 screens going on at once, which a lot of people really like. Our teachers developed a Google Classroom full of resources to share with one another for best practices. And we are going, every meeting that we have, staff meeting, we share a different digital platform that people are using to continue learning how to do this. And we've also been able to make many laptops available for students whose home districts might not have those resources. Next slide. Oh, and this is just a screenshot of the Google Classroom resources that Tracy Varish, a Ferndale teacher, also was very instrumental in putting together. It goes on for pages and pages. Oh, next. On the left is just a picture of Miss Wynnum, our dance teacher, also a Ferndale teacher. And we spent quite a long time setting up her technology so she could teach from our dance studio. And so that when she moved right, the kids would move right, which seems like an easy thing, but the way the mirroring worked, it actually took quite a while to figure out. We got it nailed down. We also sent home all sorts of materials for our students so they could be actively participating from home. Next. Each of those boxes on those desks and the rulers were filled with enough equipment for our AP Physics students to run a whole quarter's worth of experiments at home. So it had everything they needed for the kids to really actively participate at home in AP Physics. And we had quite a few other teachers do similar things. Next. In late September, we asked the students, how's it going? And we asked them in the format of stop, start, and continue. What should we stop doing remotely? What should we start doing? And what should we keep on doing? Next. So these were some of the answers. And, you know, as you can see, there's some of them are a little predictable. Don't give too much homework. You know, stop making us have our cameras on, and so forth. And some were really great suggestions about having official office hours, particularly for CASA, and giving assignments farther in advance. But overwhelmingly, and I was surprised and very proud, the kids were very responsive, and they said, continue doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. So that was great. Next. Okay. Our digital classroom. Next. So I just took I had my teachers take some screenshots just to show you the different ways in which they're interacting with students if you haven't had a chance. So our AP Environmental Science class, they're able to continue doing tree studies. They do the trees in their backyard or down the street or maybe in a local park. So they're really trying to use their environment that is around them to keep studying. Next. And we are, you know, encouraging the students to use the resources that they have in their homes. So this is our Japanese class writing their Japanese letters and their materials that they could find around their houses. Next. Okay. And this is a Padlet, which is another platform. And as you can see, you can get a lot of kids participating all at the same time. It's an easy but very effective way to engage all kids in a classroom. Okay, next. Oh, and we also are using interactive lab notebooks in a couple of our science classes that the kids are finding very useful and easy to share with their teacher and with one another. Next. And this, I think this is a little impressive. This is the list of digital resources that are actually in use right now at CASA. And this represents a pretty big learning curve for many of our teachers. And on top of this, teachers are also learning new student management systems like Schoology and Canvas on top of the new things they're trying to implement in their remote teaching. So next. We are also, as was mentioned earlier, we're doing some pop-ups. So we took the art class met at Cranbrook to sketch and draw and take some pictures on a beautiful day. Next. And it's just another pretty picture. Next. So big on everybody's minds is what are we going to do about face-to-face instruction? And we're kind of waiting to get the votes from our two biggest school districts. If and when we return to face-to-face instruction, we will be following all of the protocols that are followed at our home schools. Ferndale provides our building support and custodial support, and they've been doing a fantastic job. We do have kids in the building right now for various programs, and they're doing a great job keeping everything clean and sanitized. We have plenty of PPE to go around. We have thermometers. We check everyone as they come through the door. We have the screening questions and so forth. So it looks very similar to the things that you might see at Ferndale schools. So once we hear from our two biggest school districts what their plans are for certain, we will share out our plans for face-to-face instruction or to continue remotely till second semester. And hopefully we'll have that all nailed down at the end of the week. So next. We had 3 retirements this spring, and which was sad to say goodbye to some of our teachers, but understandable. And we have 1 more possible retirement in December. Our student numbers are a little lower this year because scheduling was very difficult this spring. So we did not replace those teachers to try to keep costs reasonable. I do want to take a minute and give a big shout out to Ferndale teacher Sean Witten. As you can see, one of our teachers who recently retired, one of his most popular classes was plagues and pandemics. And it was popular even before we stuck ourselves in the middle of a pandemic. So I had this brainstorm in the middle of the night, and I thought, you know, we could teach plagues and pandemics from a social studies perspective. So I called up Sean Witten and I said, hey, how do you feel about taking on this class? And with, you know, a few days preparation, I just tossed him in, and the students are loving it, and he's doing a fantastic job. So that's exciting. Next. In our student survey, we also asked them, since we've had some retirements and we're looking to have new classes, what kind of classes might they like to see going forward? So these are some of the results from that. Next. So we're thinking about, we've had a lot of requests for more classes about money and finance. Of course, it's very big in the news right now, very prevalent and sensitive topics in racism in the United States and around the world. And also along with that would be current events and world religions. So these are some things that we're thinking about implementing and offering for next year. I also recently had a request for a sort of a preview to law or pre-law kind of class. So we'll work on developing those as well. Okay, next. And of course, a big concern is how we are all holding up during this. So we've been working with counselors from all of our sending schools, and big shout out to counselors at the Ferndale High School, Kim Ellis and Kathy Wiley. They're phenomenal. We have a student advisory committee, and we have put together 2 events. We had a socially distanced outdoor cider and donut party a couple weeks ago, which was a big hit. And we'll be having Spirit Week the last week in October, possibly with a movie night. Next. Next, that's just our flyer. And you can see some pictures. We had a gorgeous day, and we had quite a few kids turn out. They played Frisbee and bocce and giant Jenga and hung around and had a really great time. Next. And so that's our schedule for our Spirit Week. Right now we're in a hot debate whether or not we show Hocus Pocus or Coraline for a movie night. So we'll let you know. People want to know. So, and that's what I have for you for today.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Gabby?
Well, Ms. Gebby, we really appreciate you joining us tonight, and we appreciate hearing about all the good things that continue at CASA, even amidst our current situation. And we're thankful for all the work that you do with the students from our district.
Well, thanks very much. I really appreciate coming to talk to you all this evening.
Thank you. So that will take us to item 5 on the agenda, the fall enrollment update with Mr. Good.
Hello, everybody. I hope everybody is having a good evening. All in all, enrollment from where we could be due to the pandemic is actually incredibly strong, all things considered. Next slide. So our grand total FT of where we're at as of count day, which was a couple weeks ago, is 3,021 and some change. That is, again, that's a really strong number. We were at about 3120 last year, so a little bit higher, but our average over the past 3 or 4 years has been right around 3,000. Some years were a little bit below, some years were a little bit above. So all things considered with the pandemic, to be kind of where our yearly average has been over the past 3 or 4 years is incredibly encouraging. Next slide. This is just the numbers at lower. The only real thing to take note of is the lower than normal kindergarten number, only 141. I do anticipate that number climbing as we return to the classroom eventually, whenever that happens, either later this year or next year. All of our indicators earlier, pre-pandemic in January and February, which we typically measure with, number of inquiries we get from families, new families, as well as numbers at our kindergarten open house, indicated that we were going to have somewhere north of 180 students, even close to 200, maybe even a little above that. Numbers were really, really strong. Again, I think a lot of families either elected to keep their kids in other circumstances as opposed to coming to kindergarten this year due to the pandemic. So I do expect that number to go up, but for now it is a little bit lower than we would like to see. Next slide. Upper elementary, again, pretty strong numbers, right about where they were last year. Next slide. Ferndale Middle School, again, right about where they were last year, a little bit lower than last year, but they did have a big class, which you'll see on the next slide, that matriculated up from 8th grade to 9th grade. It was replaced by a smaller, it was like a 190 student class that moved up to 9th grade. And as you can see, the 6th graders that kind of replaced them are only 157. So you lose a big class, you replace it with a small class. That's what kind of makes the numbers drop a little bit. Next slide. You can see with the high school, numbers about 694, which again is a little bit lower than we'd like to see, but good, strong 9th grade class. You can see almost 200 students, so it is by far the biggest class in the school, that's a really encouraging sign for future enrollment as well. Next slide. Great work. I saw David Gardner on the call earlier by David and his team over at UHS, Patty Scope. They do an amazing job, and as you can see, I think it was like 4 years ago when we had a freshman class of like 85 and we were worried. Now you can look at 4 years later, that class has grown up to 103. They're in 12th grade now. And you can see, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade have all been, monster classes for UHS. So to be above, 480 in a pandemic year where recruiting was extremely limited, due to the lack of in-person events that UHS normally attends. Again, just a testament to David and his team, and just a fantastic job. Next slide. TCEC is at 363 right now. Now we normally typically see some loss over their count period because their count period is a little bit different than the rest of the district. We will see where they end up, but they start at 363. Same thing with St. Paul. That's a shared time partnership program we have. 42 FTE is a little bit high right now. It's about double what they had last year. So I do expect that to come down as that gets figured out as well. But for now, that's what it's calculating at. And then the early on special education FTE we get from the Early Childhood Center is 13.35. Next slide. You can see that all adds up to about 3,021 for right now. I do think we'll end up a little below 3,000. I don't know where that is. And again, that's just from the number at St. Paul's going to come down a little bit. And the TCEC, as they potentially could lose some students that count as well. But still, all things considered, an incredibly strong number. And again, just for the board and any citizens that are watching, the count number this year, as far as how we get paid from the state due to the pandemic, is going to be 75% is based off of last year's first semester count, which was like 3120, which was one of our strongest years, or our strongest years since I've been here, and since 2014 at least, and only 25% for this year. So even though we're down off of last year, we're still right about where our average is. And again, we get the benefit of having a big count number last year during the pandemic. I can take any questions that you have. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Good. And that will take us to item 6 on the agenda, public comment. This is the time for public participation in the meeting. The Board of Education intends for the public to have many opportunities to address the board and administration of the school district. These include emails and phone calls and in better times, face-to-face meetings and community gatherings and such. We welcome individual and group input into the important issues that confront our schools. Like we said at the beginning, this is a meeting of the school board open to the public. We want to provide fair and impartial guidelines for participation as required by the Open Meetings Act and to encourage transparency and equal treatment for everyone in attendance. We also recognize that an effective meeting facilitates better decisions and promotes openness by allowing more people to stay for the full length of the meeting. To meet these goals, please note the following. We ask that you identify yourself, and if you would like to be contacted, please email Dr. Bazzi's assistant, Kimberly.Shepherd@ferndaleschools.org. If you would like a response, please note that this is the opportunity for public comment, that this is the opportunity for the public to share, and as the meeting goes on, if you have more comments or questions about subject matter that is shared, please contact the district, and the district will respond. Each person has one opportunity to address the board for up to 3 minutes. Sandra Dookie, our vice president, will give you a warning if you're approaching the 3-minute limit. The public comments are for both non-agenda and agenda items. The public comments are going to close at this part of the agenda. In the event that public comments require more than 30 minutes, we'll suspend it, and we will add time to the end of the meeting for those that didn't get a chance to speak. Complaints about staff should be made outside of board meetings and should follow the applicable board policy. Please contact the superintendent's office if you have any questions regarding this item. The board cannot respond to complaints about employees in public. This is meant to promote fairness to the staff person and to the complainant. And finally, the Ferndale Public Schools community acts with great civility toward one another, so we appreciate that you help us maintain that tradition during public comment. So if you'd like to address the board, just please unmute yourself and introduce yourself, and go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasmine Coles. I am the junior representative for University High School. I want to bring to the board's attention today about the collaboration within our school. So we have a high number of freshmen, and then we also have a lot of people just coming in and do not know each other because of the pandemic. So during like student council and different clubs I've been participating in, we've been trying to come up with ideas to get everybody to collaborate and get to know one another. But we're kind of having a hard time, finding which ones or which ways we can go about doing that, going along the lines of the pandemic and the rules that we cannot be one-on-one. So I believe some type of like workshops or something will be able to help us, but I think for all of us to be able to communicate not only with the people within our school, but other schools like University High School and Ferndale High School, combining with something throughout this pandemic that would be safe, social distance, or however we could do that. And that's all I have to present for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaslyn.
Are you taking comments on the extended learning plan right now, or is you going to do that later during that part of the agenda?
We are taking that now.
Okay. I would just like to say, I would like to see us stay remote until the end of the semester. I know for my daughter, she's gotten into a routine, and I think a lot of the kids probably have, and the teachers have, and to change that now, it would take at least 2 weeks for the kids to get back into a routine into school like it does at the beginning of the school year. And to do that in the middle of a semester kind of messes with the consistency there of their learning. I also feel that, we all know the cases are on the rise, and to go back to school and then an outbreak happens and we got to bring them back out, again, that consistency is lost. And I would like to see us just go through this semester and hopefully get back into face-to-face at the beginning of the next semester in mid-January. I'd also like to say thank you to the board, to our administration, and to all our teachers. You're doing a fantastic job. I don't envy you what you have, these decisions you have to make, but I do believe that you're doing everything honestly, transparently, and with the most concern for our kids and our community. Thank you. Oh, this is Mandy Ranke. I have a 10th grader at the high school. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Ranke.
Okay, I thought someone else was going to go. So diversity, my name is Crystal Brock. I have one at FECC, another one at Now Lower. So Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee Parent Advocacy Initiative of a town hall regarding the Montessori program met, and we will be sending final questions / information asked soon. Other parent initiatives are underway and preparing to meet soon as well. And I'm kind of with Jaslyn on this. This is something that I noticed, that most of the voices showing up to meetings are voices from like FHS, FMS, elementaries, but not many from UHS, talking about parents who aren't employees. So like regarding the equity school improvement team, there are non-employee voices from FHS, FMS, and the elementaries to give additional feedback. But again, not non-employee parental voices of UHS. So it doesn't seem, while just keeping everything fair and equitable, to me that would be a conscious decision, just thinking all voices to the table, of adding a non-employee parental voice to give that additional feedback from UHS. So I'm with Jaslyn of adding all voices to the table and all communications being open on both sides. Good luck with that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brock.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Did I miss public comment?
No, you're right in the middle of it.
Okay, hi, I'm Susan Burt and I have a high schooler. And I just wanted to comment on a couple things. The direct instruction I'm finding is not sufficient for my high schooler, the number of hours of direct instruction. And I called around to a couple different districts and I talked to a couple different people in other districts, and it seems to be that our school, including Detroit Public Schools, our district is at the lowest end that I've found in terms of direct instructional hours. So I'd like the board to consider raising it. And I have a couple options for you. Of course, you'll come up with your own, but other schools do 90-minute blocks, although some of that I understand is, you know, working time, but they're also being coached during the working time, like, okay, class, do number 3 now or whatever, that sort of thing. So it's not completely independent, although some of it is. And so I think that's one option. And another option, I know this district seems to focus a lot on math and language arts, although all subjects are important, certainly. But if you were only going to focus on increasing 90-minute blocks to just math and LA, that would still help. And then lastly, school on Friday. I know the idea was to clean the whole building on Friday, but you know, my son went to the remote learning lab. There was less than 10 kids there. I don't know that the whole school needs to be shut down for an entire day to clean the whole school for less than 10 kids when other districts are able to be open. And I know Lake Orion's completely open since the beginning of the year. And I talked to a friend there and she said it's been going pretty well. She said the middle school was shut down once for 3 days because of some outbreak. I don't know what their procedures are, quite frankly, but that's it. That's been it so far. The kids are there in person every day. And she said they have about 4 hours of a direct instruction per class per week, but it's really more like 3.5 because of, you know, talking or whatnot. Once the kids settle down, it's not at the level of 4. It's about 3.5 per class. So with our school district offering 2 hours a week of direct instruction per class, it just seems inadequate. It's inadequate for my learner, put it that way. So if the board doesn't consider changes, I'd like to know what are you, Okay, thank you. If the board doesn't consider changes, I'd like to know what will you do for my student? Thank you. Oh, and I'd like to see in-school class, I would, but I'm with, it is what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burke.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Devine. I have a 4th grader at Upper. I wanted to put in my vote too that just my voice be heard that I would like to stay remote as long as possible. But more to talk about concerns about when we do choose to go back and what that looks like, that there is a full and complete plan, that we understand the reasons why, that's well explained, and that there's still a virtual option that's reasonable. I have a kid both in Ferndale and then my stepdaughter's in Royal Oak, and Royal Oak voted to send kids back in November and gave parents 5 days notice, to make a decision to go to virtual academy or back in person. And it was very sudden and fast, and there was such an uproar over parents. They came up with a 3rd option in which they're having teachers do both in person, they're doing a split day, as well as kids remoting in, so you can choose to be remote, which I imagine is very difficult on teachers, and I can't imagine. And in talking with other Ferndale parents, as many of us who don't want to go back and want to stay safe and stay home and keep our kids home as much as possible are concerned, as well as parents that want to go back, we would rather probably, even if it meant switching teachers, have an option for virtual learning with a live teacher, even if it meant switching teachers, to stay home and have the option to not send our kids to school if we didn't feel like it was safe, versus being switched to a virtual academy where we're not interacting or having live classroom time. And that way, teachers who are in class can teach in class, and the teachers who can teach virtually, and teachers would have the option of staying virtual if they feel like it's best for their safety, and teachers who want to return to class could return to in-person classes, and considering some option like that. That's just my public comment, I guess. What are the options? And
All right, thank you, Ms. Devine.
Can I go? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, hi, I'm Erin Molnar. You know me now. I have a student at FECC and at Lower. I just wanted to advocate for getting the kids back in school. I think as a parent who maybe is comfortable with a little bit of a higher, I guess I'll say, risk tolerance, I don't feel like it's a strong risk to be in school. So that changes if it really feels like a risk tolerance or not to me. But I guess as a parent who would like to see my children back in school, and I think it's extremely detrimental to students, particularly in K through 5, to be out of school. It's detrimental to, families' health, to their mental health, to their economics, to, kids not having enough food to eat. I mean, there's so many risks to being out of school that can't be tallied nicely and easily by a media report and can't be counted like a case count, that I think that because of that, we lose sight of the fact that they are really risks. They are dangers that we are putting, by keeping kids out of school, we are potentially harming them. And I think we really need to balance that with the potential risk of COVID if we bring them back to in-person learning. I know that New York, which is New York City is the largest school district in the country. They've gone back to school and have seen really good success. They have a testing strategy, which I think is an important component of it. But I think there are ways to do it, and I think we're really learning ways to go back to school and mitigate risk. And we do have a couple months of data now from both the United States, where we don't have cases under control all over, to other parts of the world where they do have a better handle on it. I think we're getting lots of ideas and data now that we should be using to inform the goal of getting our kids back in school. I don't necessarily feel as a parent that we have a strong goal of getting our kids back in school in person. Or at least that's not the impression that I'm getting. So I would really like that to be the goal, and I would like it to be very clear at every meeting. How are we trying to reach this goal to get our kids back in school, particularly K through 5? I think there are different considerations also for older students. And I would also like to see some differentiation there, like to prioritize getting the youngest learners back for that social emotional. That was a little bit of a rant. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Molnar. I saw the screen just tick up to 15. Did somebody just join? We're in the middle of public comment. If anybody would like to address the board.
I'll say
Anybody?
something. I'll say something if nobody else wants to. I'm sorry, I didn't know if you were taking names or if it was just a kind of a random thing.
Oh yeah, just unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Emily Murray, and I have a 3rd grader and a 6th grader. And we would prefer to stay remote. We're really happy with the decisions that Ferndale's made. I'm hoping that we at least stay remote for the whole first semester. My biggest concern, and I've said this before, I just wanted to kind of re-emphasize it, kind of with what Elizabeth said, was that I'm concerned about the plan once there is a choice. When some kids go back, I'd want to keep my kids virtual, but if it meant, what she didn't say is what I'm going to say. If it means that my 3rd grader in particular has to switch his teacher, I would probably send him. And I feel like I'd be sending him into a dangerous situation to keep his teacher. So I'm a little worried about that. But he loves his teacher, we love his teacher, and they have a great relationship, I feel, right now. And I think for especially K to 5 to switch teachers is going to be a huge setback when they get restarted again. From what I understand, Berkeley is looking at going back, and all their teachers are going to change, basically everybody. And I think that's kind of crazy at this point in the year. I have a lot of concerns about my 6th grader too, because he has 7 teachers, but I honestly just can't even fathom how that would work. But my biggest concern, I mean, my 6th grader I feel is more adaptable than my 3rd grader. So I'm just kind of wanting to throw that out there, that changing teachers I think is going to be a huge setback for some kids. That's really all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Would anybody else like to address the board?
Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel. I have a student at Ferndale Lower. I would just really like to see more from the board, and I'm not sure if it's going on and available. It's just I haven't came across it so far. It's just more fact-based logic and reasoning as to how the board is deciding that we don't go back, and vice versa. If we stay out and stay virtual, or we go back, it felt very arbitrary over the summer as to how the decisions were made. It just seemed like it was each board member's, personal opinion. It didn't feel very fact-based, based on cases or, at that time, I know it was very different. We didn't have comparisons to make. Now that we have other school districts going back, they're tracking, the cases and quote unquote outbreaks at the different schools. I just would really like to see a breakdown of that. So it just doesn't feel like so arbitrary and just people's personal opinion of what, thousands of children should be doing. So I just would really like to see that in the future. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Anybody else? If so, unmute yourself and go right ahead. All right, we will close public comment. Thank you all, and we will be discussing our current COVID-19 learning plan in a few minutes. That moves us to section 7 of the agenda, the consent agenda. Does anybody have any items they would like to remove from the consent agenda? Seeing none, consent agenda will stand as it is. And the consent agenda tonight is item 1, the request to approve minutes of the special meeting from September 14th, 2020. 2, the request to approve minutes of the regular meeting from September 21st, 2020. 3, the request to approve bills and accounts for the month of September. 4, the request to approve resignations, leave of absences, and new hires. And 5, request to approve the Head Start Director's Report and continuation grant application. Is there a motion to move the consent agenda?
Move.
Moved by Jim.
Second.
Seconded by Sandra. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Dookie?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Ibrahim?
Yes.
Latash?
Yes.
O'Donnell? O'Donnell? Oh, I can barely hear you. And President Davison?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the consent agenda is approved. That brings us to section 8, the action agenda items. 8.1, the request to approve the adoption and purchase of CTE pathways for marketing, business administration, and it just went away from my screen when you did that, Dr. Bazzi. Hold on.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was improvising here. Let's see. The request to approve the adoption and purchase of CTE pathways for marketing, business administration, and engineering courses.
So I'll hand it off to Mr. Tom Mace.
Thank you, Dr. Bazzi. Good evening, everyone. So last month, we brought the proposal for CTE pathways for marketing, business administration, and engineering courses for Ferndale High School and University High School. We were asked to complete the equity rubric, so we did that, and we submitted that in the board packet. With so many online programs, it was a challenge to to get through all of them, and instead of going through all of them individually, I worked with the marketing reps from Cengage, and we went through the rubric together, and really we evaluated the marketing book that we're going to ask for in item 8.2, along with all of the other programs that we would be accessing through the CTE Pathways program together. Hopefully you had a chance to look at the rubric, and you can see that most of the components are strongly agree for the products that we are asking you to approve. We also looked at a couple of other books, and between last meeting and tonight, I did the equity rubric on a Glencoe marketing book, and the CTE Pathways from Cengage and the marketing book from Cengage exceeded the scores significantly. There were many zeros and ones on the Glencoe book as compared to the 2s and 3s on the Cengage products. Any questions on the rubric or on the proposals, which have not changed from last month?
I don't have any questions, but thank you for taking the time to do the rubric, just to, assess the bias or potential bias in the materials that we're asking to be approved tonight, as well as those that you had looked at and saw a big difference. So that, just goes to show that the rubric does potentially, call out some areas where there are some biases in the textbooks. So thanks, Tom, for doing that.
Absolutely, you're welcome.
Having used textbooks from the other publisher, teachers have had their suspicions, but it's nice to actually go through a rubric and know for sure that there are those biases. So thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the request for the adoption and purchase of the CTE Pathways for Marketing, Business Administration, and Engineering courses?
I move.
Moved by Jackie.
Second.
Seconded by Anna. Any other questions? Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Hart.
Yes.
Ibrahim.
Yes.
Latash.
Yes.
O'Donnell.
Yes.
Dookie.
Yes.
President Davison.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the request to approve the purchase of the CTE Pathways for Marketing, Business Administration, and Engineering courses is approved. That takes us to agenda item 8.2, the request to approve the adoption and purchase of the Borough Fowler 5th edition marketing textbook.
All right, thank you once again. So the marketing textbook by Borough and Fowler is a Cengage product. So the equity rubric that we just looked at for the CTE Pathways would also apply to this textbook. This is a brand new textbook, actually has a 2020 publication date. We'd be looking at 1 classroom set for University High School and 1 classroom set for Ferndale High School, plus all of the teacher supplementals if approved. Questions?
Just echoing what Jackie and Anna said, I appreciate you evaluating this curriculum through that rubric.
My pleasure.
Is there a motion to approve the adoption and purchase of the Borough Fowler 5th edition marketing
But you can
textbook?
eat it if you want to.
Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Jackie. Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Anna. Any other question or comment? Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Latash,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Dookie,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
President Davison.
Yes. With,
Thank you.
thank you. With 6 yes votes, the adoption and purchase of the Borough Fowler 5th edition marketing textbook is approved. That takes us to action agenda item 8.3, the extended COVID-19 learning plan, the October reconfirmation hearing.
So as discussed, obviously we've heard a lot of on both sides in terms of public comment. I just want to remind everyone that the board back in August did approve a virtual plan that took us virtual through the end of first semester. There's really not been much wavering as it related to that. Obviously, we are evaluating the situation. At every board meeting, there's some conversation about when to safely return students and staff to school. So that conversation is ongoing because ultimately we serve our community and will continue to listen. I just want to reiterate that the decision to go virtual was not arbitrary. 220,000 Americans have lost their lives, and worldwide that number is even obviously bigger. It's with student and staff safety. I'd also like to say that unfortunately there's no perfect plan. Obviously, I think we all can agree that students belong in person in terms of relationships, in terms of in-person teaching and learning. It can never be replicated fully in a virtual setting. With that being said, though, I am extremely proud of the staff and administrators for putting together a plan that really was based on the research in terms of screen time, that was based on what's best for students, and really looked at what's the optimal learning environment in an unoptimal situation, right? So I wish there was a way we could, ease everybody's concerns, but our families brought up valid points in terms of when you do return, then what? What impact does that have? And there will be impact, and there will be an opportunity cost for every decision that we make. There will be some impact. And so those are things that I promise you we are writing down, we will consider, but the plan has been clear, and the board made a decision based on student safety. And, with 95% of districts in Oakland County and probably 95% in Wayne County and in Washtenaw County, I assure you it's not a decision that local school boards take lightly, and was made out of, it was made based on data. It was based on keeping every single student life and staff life safe. So the recertification is a byproduct of recent legislation that requires school boards to recertify the plan every month at a public board meeting. Johanna Marekna, our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction, is going to take us through the approval process for the plan, but also share some data from our recent community survey, as well as staff and student survey.
Okay, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My mic was not working earlier, so I'm glad to see that restarting my computer fixed that. So every month, we're required to do a reconfirmation meeting and hearing. The form that you see on the screen right now is an overview of the data that's required for reconfirming the plan that we currently are using. Any changes that we make to that plan are noted on here, and you'll see in the first box right now our only changes are that we're offering additional learning lab spots for students who want them or parents who want them. So we continually open up our lab spaces to more and more students. The second part, or third part I suppose, is just comments from the last board meeting specifically regarding our return to in-school instruction. And so we've collected the ones from tonight, which we'll put on the November extended learning plan reconfirmation meeting. At the bottom, you'll see our two-way interaction rates. This is our remote way of taking attendance with students. The county has put together a different way to pull the data from MyStar, and Ashley and Keisha Reed have worked together to ensure that we have that data available for tonight. So you'll see that we actually have really, really great two-way interaction rates in the district for our weekly averages. It's a little bit of a different way of taking attendance, but that's what's required right now, is the two-way interaction.
I have a question on
yes.
this. So with these two-way interaction, is this the percentage that have have two or more two-way interactions?
It's the percentage that have two or more or have attended class in person.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks. So it's that definition that's in the return to.
Yes. Yep. That's where it comes from. Yep. So in addition to this, as part of our reconfirmation meeting, we do have some data to show you. So Danya, if you could pull up. Yep. All right. Okay, so the next slide, we'll just do a little bit of a data review. We surveyed, as you know, many of you received the survey yourself. We surveyed the community to ask about their perceptions and their satisfaction with the current plan. We got a really great response rate. This was a little bit earlier. We actually ended up with over 1,000 responses, but I had already submitted this for the board packet. But so we've received over 1,000 family responses. They were very representative of the different grades throughout the district. So lots of parents from lots of different grades and lots of different schools. Really a tremendous response rate. We usually don't get that kind of a response rate. So people are interested. As you can see on the next slide, the blue and the red parts are people who are very satisfied or satisfied with the current plan. This is an enormous percentage to receive on really on any kind of a survey. So our community is happy with what we're doing right now overall. There are some neutrals in there, and there's a small dissatisfied sliver, and then an almost a tiny very dissatisfied. So that's the overall feeling, and the percentage numbers did not change significantly with the additional responses that we got after this was submitted. We surveyed on if students are attending learning labs. 90% of our students are not attending learning labs, even though those are open for all students at this point. Next slide, please. And then we asked questions, things like, I am concerned about my child's safety, and they're cut off here, but I can tell you what they say. I'm concerned about my child's safety. I'm concerned about my child not having enough instruction, and they're actually in the notes, which I'm not running right now. But all of those, for the most part, people responded, yep, right down there. So how well do the following, so I am concerned about the impact of COVID-19 on my child's ability to socialize. I am concerned with my child becoming infected with COVID-19. I am concerned about the other impacts of COVID-19. So people are concerned about various aspects of returning to school and about their child's social emotional development. However, despite that, the response rate for satisfaction was extremely high. So I think that really speaks to the nature of this pandemic. People are worried, but they are also satisfied. On the next slide, we have some data from the county. Every week, the county gives data to schools. This is the last one. This is from the 14th. And you can see red arrows are bad, green arrows are good. There's a lot of red arrows right now for confirmed cases, for probable cases, for the averages going up, the numbers of deaths going up, and what that trend looks like. So right now, the data are not great for improving situations. That's changed in the last couple weeks compared to what it was even just 2 weeks ago. There's a lot more red arrows than there were. So that's some data just for you to take in and take a look at.
I'm just seeing if they've posted this week's yet, but I doubt it. They usually post it every Wednesday.
Yep.
That's the way.
Yeah, that's the last one.
Yeah.
So from the parent and family and staff and student surveys, this was kind of an overall takeaway. 70% of our families want to stay virtual, 30% want to come in person. It actually isn't that much different from our staff, where 80% want to stay virtual and 20% want to come in person. Where we do have a difference is with students. 55% of them want to stay virtual, 45% want to come back. So our students, half of them do want to come back to school. So that's kind of an overall view of the data. Okay, next slide, please. So using this data, we sort of came up with two potential possibilities. Continue with our current plan. We have a high satisfaction rate. We have responsive building administrators, safety of students and staff, and then a January date, which was previously communicated by the board. And that for 70% of our community and 80% of our staff is working. So that's a large majority of the community. So that's sort of one idea. The second idea would be to continue with our current plan, but we think logistically that we would be able to offer 1 to 2 elementary sections in person while continuing to maintain our robust online synchronous instruction for our students who are in that program. In terms of what that would mean, we definitely can ensure that students wear masks, that they hand wash, that they use sanitizer, that they have individual desks, but we would not be able to ensure for those 1 to 2 sections of elementary students that they had social distancing or that they had cohorted lunches. So this would be kind of, this plan would speak to that 20 to 30% of the community that wants their kids, the elementary level, that wants their kids back in school while maintaining the exact same current plan for the 70 to 80% that would like to remain virtual. It is a possibility, but you saw in the previous slide that the data is not encouraging either. That's kind of where we're at with the current data. So on the next slide, this was sort of projection data. And you can see that the first graders are a little bit of an anomaly, but once we got the rest of this, the data that came in after we made the presentation for the packet, it normalized. So we're looking at around 2 sections, K through 5, of kids that want, that parents, families that want their students to be in the buildings, and then the rest do not. The rest would like to continue to remain virtual. Next slide, please. So with that, we're wondering where the board would like us to head, some input, looking at the data. Do we want to look at the January return date continued for elementary and secondary? Do you want to wait till next month and maybe see what the data may bring next month? Do we want to look at the possibility of those couple sections of elementary coming back sooner than January? What is the board's thinking with all of that information? And we don't have to have an answer tonight.
Right. Yeah.
That's just kind of just something to think on. But if you have ideas, certainly we can hear them so we can sort of fit them into a plan. But we can also discuss it at the next committee of the whole. It's a lot.
And it's a lot to take in. That's kind of where we're at now. And either way, you know, with second semester really right around the corner, we really have to think about how do we transition students back to school when it's safe, and then in what manner, like what's the model going forward? Is it just, you know, that's the options that we really want to look at. Is it all students coming back at once? Is it cohorts? Is it AB days? Is it half days? We believe we have, we'll be able to accommodate multiple plans, but we really want to figure out what's optimal for our families. And a strong want to see synchronous instruction continue even when we return to school. And that's really the challenge, right? Because if all the teachers are back in the classroom and they're doing half days to ensure social distancing, well then you would have to hire staff. We would have to hire staff, which would mean a change in teacher, which would bring about those things. But I think the message is loud and clear that synchronous instruction, that they would like to see, families would like to see that continued in some capacity. So our thinking is to build a plan that even second semester, if the district decides to come back to in-person, that we're still able to facilitate live synchronous instruction, even the second semester. And so the board can share their thoughts, but it's something also, if the board pleases, we can revisit at the committee of the whole and share more direction to us. We're ready for any plan, but we just want to make sure that the board has had time to look at the data, to ask the questions, and then we'll move forward with guidance.
I wanted to add to that is our data is not the same as some of the surrounding communities around us. It's actually sort of the opposite. So the plans that we're thinking of really reflect the data that we have in our community, not what other districts around us are doing, where 80% of their families would like to return. We don't have that data, so we believe that our plan needs to fit the data that we have, rather than what somebody else is doing. So it's going to be, excuse me, a unique solution, but we're prepared to make a unique solution that matches what our community wants.
So I just wanted to have a couple of things to share. First, I appreciate the people that, that do want to make sure that the board is clear about how we make decisions. I appreciate that. I don't just seek confirmation of our decisions when I'm making the next round. So I want to acknowledge that, and also just to build on something that Dr. Bazzi said about taking student safety into consideration. I think it certainly weighed on me taking staff safety into consideration. So in the summer and now, when it does appear that children may have reduced, especially younger children, may have reduced risk for infection, that obviously they are not taught and served by other children. They're taught by adults who do have, of various ages, that do have not only risk of infection, but serious illness as a result of COVID. So that is also part, I think, of our risk assessment, where we look at not only the probability as best we can judge it, because it's not precisely quantifiable, but the probability of a bad event on one hand, and then the magnitude of that event. And certainly death and lifelong illness is a significant magnitude to weigh. At the same time, I think over the summer, we also weighed the social emotional risks of students not being in school. And those are also not insignificant this time around. So as we continue to look at this decision, I certainly do want to visit it again at the Committee of the Whole meeting. I am interested in knowing, although the satisfaction numbers are good, you know, there's a sizable percentage to me as a board member in the neutral to dissatisfied range that I'd want to know more about what, you know, I don't know if we can reach out or have a sample in a focus group or something to learn a little bit more about those opinions, but some specific things that they would like to see, because they may be very different elements of dissatisfaction. It could be, you know, they want to stay virtual, but they want more direct instruction time, like we heard tonight. So if we can feasibly reach out to some of that group of people, I think it's important to sort of take that into consideration in making the next round of decision. And then also, because in the absence of solid data that erring on the side of safety and being cautious about making the reopening decision and making sure that we can stick with it is important. You know, I think at the next Committee of the Whole, just getting that updated case information and seeing where Michigan and Southeast Michigan in particular is. I think we have to look at Wayne County too, if we can get their numbers, because we do have a significant number of Wayne County students in our district. That would be helpful. Two other helpful data elements for me anyway.
Danya, we do have some of that in the survey. There's an open-ended response, so we can probably go through that and pull that, some of that.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, and Jim, we do have our principals taking a look at those results, and if there's immediate needs, they're going through and then following up with the family. So every building principal will then results, and if there are things like my technology's not working, sometimes things like this get into the survey, then they're following up with it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Can we also look at some of the dissatisfaction that some of the parents have, and if that could be alleviated by having the learning labs used more frequently? I'm kind of surprised that there's so little usage of the learning labs. And I don't know if there's a way to make it appear less scary, or if it's just not easy to access, or what's going on with that.
We've actually had some feedback on the learning labs. And one of the things that we're hearing is, I don't want my kid to sit at school on a computer. I want them back with their teacher in the classroom. So that's one of the pieces of feedback that we've gotten
Okay.
for learning labs from a subset, but it's not reflective of all of it.
Okay, and is the learning lab only sitting on a computer, only online activity?
At the secondary level. At the elementary level, there are some PlayWorks coaching sessions, some recess sessions that happen for the elementary students.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they were designed as a way for students who don't have access and don't have some of the, maybe don't have a quiet workspace, perhaps don't have access to food, to have all of those things while accessing the virtual learning.
Okay. And as far as there had been talk about pop-up sessions, are those meeting some of the social emotional needs of the kids, or is that not as robust as it might be, or?
We have to do a better job at highlighting those. We've had over 50, but just, I mean, everyone's been busy that we don't, you know, we have to find more time to kind of put the good stuff in front of the board. But we've had over, I think the last time I checked, we had over 50. It's probably over 60 by now. And Johanna can speak to that a little bit more in depth.
And yeah, so, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
There have been pop-up events at every level, preschool through high school. There are a variety of types of events. Some of them are academic, some of them are social, some of them are related to some specific piece of content. So there have been a huge variety of pop-up events. I guess the difference between that and a sustained interaction on a regular basis is that the pop-ups really are exactly what they sound like, a one-time or maybe two-time event rather than
an ongoing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have a lot of in-person in terms of special education services and
right. Yeah.
at the elementary. The complexity, we will look to ideas of how we can make the learning labs more robust at the secondary. The problem is again, interventions at elementary is a little bit less complex to do because you have a teacher who teaches all content areas in that grade level. And if I'm a math teacher and if I was supporting the academics at the learning lab and you told me to do chemistry, the students would be more effective than I would be at assisting, right? So there's that complexity of how many staff, but I think there are ways that if this continues on longer, that we can, at least during the break times, ensure that there's academic support during the learning labs, even at the secondary level. So we'll brainstorm and bring back some ideas to the committee of the whole meeting.
Okay.
I just, I want to acknowledge that there are a number of unique, difficult situations that our families are experiencing. We hear about them periodically as a board, and obviously the staff. And I don't take those things lightly because, like you said earlier, Dr. Bazzi, there's nothing better than in-person instruction. And I really would like to return to in-person instruction as soon as possible when we have data that supports it, and it's the will of the families and students in the district. And I'm supportive. And the numbers, those arrows took a red turn this week, unfortunately. They had been trending green. So, I mean, that certainly gives us pause, but I think as it's been referenced, we know that the numbers have been the numbers of the infection rate has been less for younger children. And we also know that they probably struggle the most with screen time and the lack of face-to-face learning. So when it is feasible, I'm supportive of ideas that would phase younger students in first when it's feasible and it's the will of those families.
Agreed.
I'll just echo what Mike said. I think it does make sense considering all the factors that we consider how we can best phase in when it's possible, given the risk factors and also the special needs of the younger kids. I know even at my tender age, I have a hard time sitting in front of the computer all day. So I know they're having a rough time. But I do have significant concerns about the numbers and the increase. And I want to make sure that when we do return, we do so carefully and cautiously and try and consider the best interests of everyone involved. And also while we're moving towards that plan of returning to school, also see what we can do to tweak the amazing program that we already have in the schedule to see if there's any ways we can kind of incorporate some of the comments that we heard today and we've heard over the last few weeks as well.
I mean, I agree. I am want to definitely potentially consider option 2, but there's too many other varying factors to give 100% agreement behind it. So I'd rather us take more time to discuss this in more detail at the next meeting.
Do you have anything to add, Sandra?
You want me to tell you that I agree with everything everyone has said?
If so, if not, no.
No, I mean, I do agree with everything that everyone else has said. I also want us to be, mindful of the data that we see. And so I, like Jim, not only worry about our students, but I also have I worry about our staff because our students are, on the younger end of the spectrum are more resilient. But if our staff aren't well to teach our kids, then we're doing our kids a disservice. So I'm looking forward to talking about it with more data at Committee of the Whole.
I get a little concerned when I hear that we are looking towards November and December, which we haven't even gotten into the hardest part of the year. And it may end up being nothing November and December, but it also may turn out to be as bad as what they've been talking about. So I think that we do need to look at the medical aspect, the scientific information that we can get a hold of. We also have to look at the disproportionate effect that this has on people of color and the effects of COVID. So there's a lot that we have to be looking at, and that Michigan is not going in a good direction right now. So we do have a lot of reading to do.
All right, Dr. Bazio, I think we will obviously, we know that you and your administration will continue to steadfastly pay attention to and observe data and consider all these factors as we, as we consider when to return to school.
Yeah, we will gather all of the requests and have that information ready for the committee of the whole meeting to continue those discussions. As was discussed, evaluate what we're doing moving forward, and come up with some different ideas for the board to consider.
Is there a motion to approve the extended COVID-19 learning plan for October?
I'll move.
Moved by Jen and seconded by
Second.
Anna. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Latosh,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Dookie,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
President Davison.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the extended COVID-19 learning plan for October is approved. That takes us to action agenda item 8.4, the request to approve district classroom furniture purchase.
We talked about this in our last committee of the whole. We're trying to get our buildings ready for second semester in-person learning. One of the things that we identified with the principals was the concern that a lot of our classrooms have tables and we can't properly socially distance the students. So what we're looking for is 15 classrooms of furniture at University High School, 6 classrooms at the high school, at Ferndale High School, and then a majority of the classrooms at lower elementary. We're looking to buy individual student desks for those rooms. This is a federal grant. It's the federal coronavirus relief grant that's going to actually provide the funding for this. We have been working with our furniture consultant and the principals and also looking at our strategic plan so that we're trying to find model furniture that will work well for coronavirus for the social distancing, but also after our pandemic's over, this is nice movable furniture that they'll be able to use to, once again, when the students are able to collaborate, we can push them together and form islands, learning islands and whatnot. So what we're looking for is an approval of furniture. These were all purchased through the REMC and AEPA bids. So it does meet our purchasing guidelines. So we're looking for an award of $180,745.75 to School Specialty for this furniture. And once again, it is provided by that federal grant. Any questions?
One thing to mention is, I know it seems like, a lot of money to spend on hopefully thinking, let's say this time next year, we're back to some normalcy. The virus isn't simply going to go away. So to have furniture that can be socially distant is important. For example, at University High School, most of the furniture is long tables so that students are sitting really one next to another. There's some pictures including kind of some different variations of furniture in which Jamie worked with each principal to identify, and kind of some of the movable furniture. I'm sorry, it's really small to see, but it's kind of these types of desks that can still facilitate kind of collaborative learning, but also allow for the distance to take place. So they thought a lot about sustainability and ensuring that it's something that can be utilized after. But as Jamie mentioned, all of these purchases will be made with COVID relief dollars and not general fund expenditures.
And I just wanted to mention too, the manufacturer has committed to having that furniture to us by the end of December. And these are installed prices. They have a installation company that comes in and places them in all the furniture or in all the classrooms and moves the old furniture out and everything for us too.
questions, comments from the board?
Thanks for putting this together. It makes a lot of sense to do this with the available grant funds.
No problem.
So I know, Jamie, we've talked about this. The REMC process is a process that looks at multiple bids, correct?
Yeah, it's a collaboration with the state. Majority of the school districts use it, but basically they bid out all types of, whether it's computers, furniture, any kind of school supplies. They bid out statewide so that all the schools can take advantage of that bulk purchasing price. So we all get the economies of scale.
Is there a motion to approve the district classroom furniture purchase?
I move.
Moved by
Second.
Jackie and seconded by Jim. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Dookie,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Latash,
Yes.
President Davison.
Yes.
Thank you.
With 6 yes votes, the district classroom furniture purchase is approved. That moves us to action agenda item 8.5, the request to approve the agreement for CARES Act distribution between Oakland County and Ferndale Public Schools.
We've received, Oakland County received $28 million in CARES Act funding that's been distributed to the local school districts based on free and reduced rate, student population, staff population. What this is Ferndale at the county level will receive a total of $641,212, which is an increase of about $208,000 than what was expected. In order to receive those funds, we have to enter in an agreement with Oakland County that kind of describes our responsibilities and their responsibilities as it relates to the COVID fund. Nancy, jump in at any time. To my understanding, there's about $430,000 that really is, the oversight is a little bit more lax. And then about $208,000 of the funding will have to, give the reasoning and ensure that we're not supplanting versus, general fund expenditures. Meaning that we're not kind of double dipping on spending the funds on things that we would normally spend in a specific school year. So this agreement just allows us to collect those funds, and the board will have to approve this in order for us to receive those. If I missed anything, Nancy, feel free to jump in.
No, you are correct in what you said. The federal government is authorizing up to $500 a student that they will not require, I'll say, very detailed explanation or backup, although we are keeping very detailed explanation and backup on everything. Any money over the $500, they're going to require a little bit more support. That $500, it also takes into consideration the money we have directly received through the state and from the federal government. So the $350 a student, and then the $12 a student that we've already received. So if you subtract those two amounts from the $500, that's the amount that we do not have to have really strong support, as they're calling it. But we still do receive more than that. So because of our students that are economically disadvantaged and some other factors, we will be receiving over $500 in total with all the funds that we're getting. So it was very, it was a really nice that the county is able to give us this money. And again, this money is required to be spent again by December 31st. So they have given a little leeway in some of the grants that as long as we've entered into a contract for it, we don't actually have to have the goods in-house. But we're hoping to get as many in-house as possible.
Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate that. Other questions?
Are you able to find out what you could spend that money on?
You know, the typical types of things, PPE, staffing as it relates to COVID. For example, if Jamie is spending significant time related to COVID, we're allowed to take a portion of his salary. Technology, supplies for students to learn in the virtual environment, anything that's required for us to navigate the situation that we're in due to COVID. So any expense that we have as it relates to us being in this particular situation, we're allowed to. Internet, devices, as you saw with CASA sending home like materials and manipulatives, all of that type of stuff.
So testing and people to do testing, not SAT testing.
Yes, I believe that if you hired like a healthcare professional, you would be able to utilize funds to pay for that, correct?
And buying the actual COVID tests.
I believe that would be allowable. Nancy's is the gatekeeper in terms of you know, compliance with grants. She keeps us not in, you know, make sure that we don't get in trouble. Have you heard of any districts purchasing COVID tests?
I have not heard of any districts that are doing that. Mostly it's just it's technology, it's furniture, it's the PP&E that we need.
If we
we're looking
did
at,
that,
you know, the instruments that we just recently purchased so that our students do not have to share instruments as they currently do. All the PP&E required for instruments and for our vocal students. As Danya said, any time any of our staff has spent, Jamie, Johanna, Tom, they've spent a great deal of their summer getting us ready, getting the buildings ready in Jamie's case, and getting us ready to go online with our teachers and students. So we can pay for the teachers the day that they spent learning how to use school, or learning how to use their online system, those types of things that we can charge to it right now.
Yeah, no, if we were to be able to do this, if we were to get test kits and personnel to administer tests, we would be on the cutting edge. We would be leading edge. And in order to have a good system of bringing staff and students back, that I think is what we're gonna, I wouldn't be surprised if that isn't what would be next, possibly. But I think it would be interesting to push for it. And it would be, I just think it would be an interesting thing to look into and to see if we could push for it. For teachers, at least, to be able to get, when they come back, to get regular testing.
I agree with you, Anna. I'm just curious how much that would cost.
Yeah.
And if that would be something that would be maybe a CARES Act too.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think it would be definitely, doctors are talking about it now as something that should be available for athletic teams that are going back to high school, student, you know, high school students and parent or teachers. Obviously not the little ones, but it would just be, it'd be interesting.
No, I definitely agree. I just would like to know how much it costs, because I don't know if 600 grand would cover it. But I'm right there with you, and I'm looking forward to the federal government giving us some more money so we can do that.
I'd want to see the I'd want to see us partner with the county health department to do that, just because we'd also probably have to increase our liability insurance and all those ancillary costs. And I think they have the capacity and the ability and the technical expertise to do it.
Absolutely.
Those nose swabs go pretty deep.
Yeah.
At least for the rapid test, they do.
They do, but it's doable.
I think the issue though is that the health department's guidance, unless you're a first line exposure, they're really not recommending testing at this point unless you are, you know, first in line. And the rapid tests reliability isn't
that good.
You know, and then getting into, we've had many athletes who have said that they've been exposed, or even students who come to the learning lab. And sometimes when we've asked, you know, can you get testing to ensure that, you know, that we need to know for certain. There's been some resistance to that in terms of families wanting to be tested. So this would have to be something that, you know, we'd have to be sure that parents and families, you know, were on board. And then, as they mentioned, I hate to say cost. Like, we can always find a way around sometimes in terms of cost, but a lot of these grant dollars have expiring dates of 12/30, which means that after December 30th, we're going to see limited funding in terms as it relates to CARES Act dollars. And then, as it relates to our school budget, yes, the original budget we have is very promising in that we're not going to receive cuts, but we could still face a negative supplemental, which means that, you know, mid to end year, depending on how the economy is doing, they could come back and further cut us. So we do tend to take a conservative approach, but there's a lot of unknowns this year. And we need to be cautiously optimistic.
Cross our fingers, maybe we'll have a national plan in place sooner rather than later. Maybe.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the agreement for CARES Act distribution between Oakland County and Ferndale Public Schools?
I'll move.
Moved by Jen,
Second.
and seconded by Anna. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Donald? Excuse me.
Yes.
Dookie?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Ibrahim?
Yes.
Latash?
Yes.
President Davison?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the agreement for CARES Act distribution between Oakland County and Ferndale Public Schools is approved. That brings us to action agenda item 8.6, the request to approve the resolution authorizing the 2021 refunding bonds, both the tax exempt and the taxable series.
Nancy?
Okay. So we have the opportunity to refund 2 series of our bonds, the 2011 and 2012, as well as a portion or all of the loan that we have with the state of Michigan as part of the Michigan School Revolving Fund. We discussed this 2 weeks ago at the Committee of the Whole. This will, while it will not provide savings to the district per se, it will provide savings to our families, our constituents in our district, So this is a really great opportunity. There's one resolution authorizing this. There'll be two separate series because the refunding of the 2011 bonds and the 2012 bonds, those will be sold as non-taxable bonds. When we refund the loan from the state of Michigan, that will be a taxable bond because when the state funds that to us, they do that with taxable bonds. So because they do it with taxable bonds, the bonds we issue to refund it has to be taxable. So there'll be two issuances, an A and a B, taxable and non-taxable. So we are asking that the board approve the refunding of the 2011 and 2012 bonds along with a portion or all of the school bond loan fund loan. Any questions or?
No questions. Thank you for going through this thoroughly at the committee of the whole meeting. It makes sense to do, even though there's a lot of words.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the 2021 refunding bonds?
So move.
Moved by Jim.
I'll second.
And seconded by Jackie. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Dookie,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Latash,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
President Davison.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the resolution authorizing the 2021 refunding bonds is approved. That brings us to item 8.7, the request to approve the Fall Neola Volume 35, Number 1 update. This is our second read.
So at the last committee of the whole meeting, we went through this page by page, and a lot of the policies that are being approved are to, meet law requirements in terms of language. Nothing structurally different. In terms of that, there was some updates as it relates to facility security that allows us to use different types of lock devices in the event of a lockdown situation. And then policy to, as it relates to protective facial coverings, to require that students wear face coverings as it relates to pandemics and COVID-19. So again, nothing too crazy in here, just, expected changes. And in the board packet, it shows clearly what's been adjusted as a result of those discussions in the last committee of the whole meeting. Questions?
I appreciate the board's detailed look into this, and of course your work, Dr. Bazzi, preparing to take us through this each time that we do it. Is there a motion to approve the Fall Neola Volume 35, Number 1 update, second read?
I'll move.
Moved by Sandra. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jackie.
That was Jen.
Jen, excuse me. Sorry.
Okay.
I hesitated for a second. I saw you blink, Jackie. Okay, roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Hart,
Yes.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Latash,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Dookie,
Yes.
President Davison.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the Fall Neola Volume 35, number 1 update, second read is approved. And that brings us to item 8.8, the request to approve the resolution policy waiver, the amendment update.
So if you remember, a few months ago, the board approved a policy waiver as it related to the governor's executive order. There was a number of executive orders that were in contrast to some of our policy as it relates to how schools generally function. With the latest Supreme Court ruling in Michigan, the executive orders are kind of now not enforceable. And so the policy, it needs to be updated to reflect applicable state and local government orders. So as you saw, MDHHS, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, put out a lot of guidance and mandatory orders out outside of the executive order to ensure that we'd still be able to operate under the essence of the executive orders. The same thing we saw recently, the Open Meetings Act was legislatively amended so that we could continue meeting in a virtual format. So as you see in red, it shows you from the last time you approved it to now what has changed. And again, all it does is remove reference to the executive orders and changes now where we get that guidance to be able to deviate from any existing policy that we have. Questions?
Sounds good. Is there a motion to approve the resolution policy waiver amendment update?
I'll move.
Moved by Sandra.
I'll second.
And seconded by Jackie. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Latash,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Dookie,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
President Davison.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the resolution policy waiver amendment update is approved. That brings us to action agenda item 8.9, the request to approve hazard pay for COVID-19.
So I'm going to hand this off to Teresa Volcano. One thing that I'd like to point out is, Nancy, I don't know the exact figure off the top of my head, but COVID-related funding, we have roughly, is it 1.6 or 1.9 million total? I know we've expended a lot of it, but what was our total?
Let's see, we have 204,000 in gear.
Mm-hmm.
We have a little over $1 million in our CARES money. We have 38,000 in CARES money. We have 361,000. And then we have the money we just received from the county, the 641,000.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make it clear that as we discussed hazard pay, that the amount of total funding was, in excess of
okay.
So, Teresa, I'll hand it off to you.
Okay. So I had a chance to meet with each of our bargaining groups to talk about hazard pay. This was something that was raised at the beginning of the year. And we were able to talk with each group and kind of work through some, amounts that we thought were reasonable, and depending on the position type, on the number of days that they were required to be on site, the hours that they were working, and different things. So this recommendation from, agreements with each of the groups is presented today. This would be for anyone who had, that was required to report on site. If they had a 100% virtual schedule, they would not be entitled to the hazard pay. So every group did express their appreciation for this. They were very thankful that we were coming to talk with them, and felt like these amounts were appropriate. So we bring it to the board for approval.
Just to clarify, there are letters of agreement with each of the bargaining units over this, because this was bargained, but due to the amount, we would need board approval.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
Just a thank you for putting this together.
The board the board brought this up to us at the beginning of the school year, and we know that it was important to you for us to show thanks to the people who are putting themselves obviously at risk. And I think Teresa, she has to meet with a lot of different bargaining groups to come to agreements with, and she took the time to discuss and work this out with each of the union leadership. And I thank them too for being accessible and allowing us to get this done in a fairly quick time frame.
Is there a motion to approve the hazard pay for COVID-19?
I move.
Moved by Sandra.
Second.
I think that was Anna.
Yeah.
Seconded by Anna. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Latash.
Yes.
O'Donnell.
Yes.
Dookie.
Yes.
Hart.
Yes.
Ibrahim.
Yes.
President Davison.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the hazard pay is approved. That brings us to action agenda item 8.10, the request to approve the superintendent's goals for the 2020-2021 school year.
Can we add advancing the slides as one of the goals for this year?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you did. You're fine.
I don't know. I felt like I was waiting for the vote. I apologize. All right. So this at the last committee of the whole meeting in closed session, we discussed the superintendent evaluation and the goals that the board would like to see during the 2020-2021 school year. The goals are centered around the strategic plan and board resolution, implement and oversight. Obviously related to the COVID-19 pandemic and return to learn implementation and management. We also are in the midst of various bond projects that include the design of a brand new Ferndale Lower Elementary School, as well as significant work at the high school pool area, fuel, and FECC. And then administrator growth and coaching. We have a number of new administrators in the district to continue to facilitate their growth and leadership and support them as they become more acclimated with the Ferndale family, as well as existing administrators. And then the last goal is centered around student growth and achievement, which obviously is important to us, but is a law that's in every educator's evaluation. We will then have a mid-year check-in in February with the summative evaluation in May. Questions?
appreciate the dialogue that we had during this at our previous meeting.
Yeah, I was similarly going to add that we talked about this at length, and these goals seem to make sense for our school year, both what the district is doing with a fairly recent strategic plan and equity, and obviously COVID. Is there a motion to approve the superintendent's goals for the 2020-2021 school year?
I'll move.
Moved by Jen and second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Sandra. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Dookie,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Abraham,
Yes.
Latosh,
Yes.
O'Donnell.
I mean, yes.
President Davidson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the superintendent's goals for the 2020-2021 school year are approved, which brings us to agenda item 9, the information items budget to actual report.
Again, each month Nancy prepares this for us. It allows us to monitor our spending month to month and our various budget areas. So basically, we've caught up on our spending. This time last year, we were about 87% remaining of the budget. We are at about 85.91. Nancy has explained the variance. For example, if you look under federal revenue, it's quite a big variance. But if we go to letter B, it explains that the district received $1.93 million from the coronavirus relief grant in current year. So that's why you're seeing that change, because we've seen a lot more come into that particular area. Again, the variance is explained. We're still, within normal spending patterns that we would see this year. And ultimately are going to see some savings due to being in a virtual format.
All right, any questions? Thank you, Nancy and Danya. That takes us to agenda item 10. There were no pulled consent agenda items. So item 11, the Eagles points of pride for comments for this month of October.
I'll go first. I just want to give a shout out to all our staff and families who are doing the best they can in these current unprecedented times. Like we know and that everyone is doing the best they can, and we acknowledge that and appreciate it.
I'm happy to go next. I just want to express my gratitude and pride for the work that Johanna has done and all of our staff in terms of executing the learning plan. You don't get 96% engagement over those first few weeks of the school year just by happenstance. That's reflective of a lot of planning and hard work, and I appreciate it.
I think I might get booted out again soon, my internet. I just wanted to give a quick shout out and thank you to the high school staff. I think I was a little scared about the conferences and they went amazingly well this week. So I just want to thank everyone for being there and doing that and giving us the updates on the conferences. So many thanks.
I wanted to thank the high school representatives to the school board. I didn't realize how much I missed hearing about normal high school kid activities until they started talking about normal high school kid activities. Thank you, girls, for letting us know what was going on and making me feel like times are normal a little bit. Thanks a lot.
I too want to just express my appreciation for the teachers, the administrators, the staff, and even our families for adapting and adjusting and making the best of the situation given such a horrible situation that we're all in. And, you know, just really showing that, you know, through the survey and the results that there is appreciation for the fact that we are online. And I know it's tough for families, but we really have to keep in mind the seriousness of this pandemic. And I just appreciate everyone for being civil throughout all of it.
I think I meant to mention earlier and didn't, that if individual families have any unique issues related to how your students are able to engage right now, that please reach out to your, if not your teachers, your building principals, and just let them know what your particular situation is, because they're working hard to accommodate the needs of all the families. I just want to, similar to what's already been said as well, give my gratitude for the really clear and organized and confident direction that that I know my students have received from their teachers. I asked one of my kids what they're learning yesterday or the day before, and she went class by class and told me exactly what she's learning in every class, and I felt pretty good about that. So kudos to all the people, administration, and obviously teachers that have put us in a place where kids are still learning despite this remote operation.
Me? Well, I have to echo what everybody said. Johanna, Tom, central office, cabinet, has teachers, principals have really been working very diligently to do the best to meet the needs of our community. I understand the frustrations and the want to get back to school. I also understand the want to stay in a virtual setting. I assure the community that we're listening. We're going to continue to try and meet your needs individually. And as the board president, Mr. Davison, said, if there's specific things, please reach out to your teacher, principal, to myself. There's always something we can do to help. And we will get through this. Trust me, I can't wait till kids are back in the building. And this will pass eventually. I do thank the community for their understanding, their compassion, and the great civility that we have in having these discussions. I feel very lucky to work and serve Ferndale. It's a special place. And I know that everyone wants what's best for kids, and that will continue to guide us as we move forward.
All right, well, thank you all, and thank you, members of the community, parents, and staff that have spent your evening with us. This meeting will be adjourned at 9:31 p.m.